Thank you, Betsy. 3, 2, 1.
Welcome in. Apparently, Sipple has a close personal relationship with the Zoom, the recording now in progress voice.
Which I don't think anybody listening can actually hear.
No, nobody can actually hear that. But if you've used
Thank you,
Zoom
Betsy.
in recent weeks and recorded something, you get a voice that says, "This is being recorded." And it sounds like one of those voices on like a navigation app. So on that note, welcome in Husker Extra Podcast number 194. We're closing in on a milestone here. I'm Chris. There's Parker. There's Steve. It's 1:42 p.m. Friday, June 11th, 2021. I need to give a quick shout out to Mrs. Baz. It's our 11th wedding anniversary today. She's currently in the
Big
other
number
room.
11.
Big number 11. So shout out to Megan. She's in the other room with our lovely son Palmer right now.
It's amazing anytime I hear somebody make it 11 years.
Oh, I was shocked we made it more than like 2 with the way I act. So
yeah, no kidding.
Seriously.
As you've been married almost long enough now, where you can break out that joke, like how long you've been married. 11 years, 7 of the best years of my life.
There it is.
That's good. Parker.
There it is. I'll run that one by upper management here when we're done and see what you.
That's really strong. I like that one.
The first time I heard that one, I was like, that's pretty good. And then
That's pretty good.
And like I've heard it several other times over the course of my life.
I had a friend who used to say about his marriage that each day is better than the next, which meaning that each day is worse than the one before it. But it's kind of a sneaky way of saying that each day is better than the next. So on that note, happy anniversary to my
congrats.
Wife. Congrats to us for making it this far. Let's get right into it. We'll talk a little football recruiting today. We'll recap the baseball season that wrapped up Monday down in Arkansas. Hogs getting ready to go tonight in the Super Regionals against NC State down at Baum Stadium. Plenty to talk about. I'll let you guys kind of take it over. It's another official visitor weekend for Nebraska, the second one here in June after the big one last week. And maybe not quite the list of guys that Nebraska had last week, but still a pretty good representation of dudes coming in this weekend.
Yeah, it definitely is. There's 6 official visitors that are getting to campus. I think all of them are getting to campus today. That's sort of the standard setup for the official visit, Friday to Sunday. And like you said, Baz, last week it skewed a little more to the offensive side with a couple of offensive linemen. Plus, I would go so far as to say Nebraska's top targets at quarterback, running back, and wide receiver. This week there's 4 defensive guys and 2 offensive guys, but the offensive guys are interesting. It's a wide receiver from Boulder named Grant Page and a running back named Ashton Hayes from out in Reno, Nevada. He could be a slot guy. He's sort of a versatile back in that way. He can really run. And then they've got 4 defensive players on campus as well. So it's a busy weekend. They're up to, it was 8 last weekend. And then Tyreek Johnson, the transfer defensive back from Ohio State before last weekend. So that's 15 official visits that Nebraska has already used as of this weekend in June. There's 2 weekends still to go this month. Just like as a reference point, I think in 2019, Nebraska had 10 in June and 1 in April. So you're already north of the number for the full month this year. And obviously, I think they're going to probably go, 10 more or so on the final 2 weekends. So it's busy. And then on top of that, there's guys on campus today working out in that sort of like, you get 1 hour of working out on unofficial visits. So big group of kids doing that today. Nebraska sort of done a Friday setup with those this Friday. So it's another busy weekend at Memorial Stadium, and it'll be interesting to see, if any offers come out of the workouts today. And then Nebraska picked up the one commitment, which we can talk about from Chase Androff, the tight end, during the course of the week. We'll see if any more commitments shake out from either last week's visitors or this weekend's.
Hey, Parker, as someone who's unfamiliar with college football, largely,
Go ahead. Yes.
How many official visits are allowed?
56.
56.
But
someone who's only vaguely aware that Nebraska has a football program, Steve Sipple has a question.
I'm trying to indoctrinate myself into college football. So they get 56.
Yeah. The thing I don't know about that, and the thing I don't know about that though is normally if you have visits left over from the year before, you can roll them to your next year. And so like nobody used official visits last year.
Yeah, how would that work this year? Yeah.
Other
Right.
12.
Well, it seems like you're more than vaguely aware of addition, so that's good.
It's an improvement over what we normally get on here.
Yeah, for real. But then
Oh, for real, huh? Is that for real?
I like how matter of fact that was. Oh yeah, seriously, for real.
Yeah, for real. But it's interesting because I should probably actually get some clarity on this, because I saw recently, Sipple, that Ohio State, Mark Pantoni, their chief of staff, the sort of operations guy, said that they were expecting 51 official visitors to Ohio State in the month of June alone.
See, they must roll over.
Yeah, and there's no way that the Buckeyes would use all but 5 of their official visits, although their class is pushing toward full, so maybe. But that's almost the entire normal allotment for a year. So 56 in a normal year. I don't know that that's exactly the number this year.
It's interesting.
There you go.
It is.
So Parker, would you expect any commits out of the guys we're gonna see this weekend?
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't know for sure about the 6, like the 6 guys in particular that are visiting this weekend. Most of them have already been on at least one visit. A lot of them have visits after this weekend. The guys I think you sort of put on the watch list, so to speak, for the most part are guys that visited last weekend. Like, for example, Richard Torres, the quarterback, he's visiting Kansas State this weekend. And then basically he's probably going to be in decision mode after that. Landon Sampson, the receiver that was here last week, he's unofficially visiting Ohio State this weekend with his high school quarterback, Quinn Ewers, who, number 1 overall player in the country for 2022, 5-star prospect. Quinn Ewers already committed to Ohio State. So this is the last for a couple of the guys that visited last weekend. This weekend represents like the last thing we know that's on their schedule for the month. Torres, Sampson. There's a couple of other guys that maybe you could put in that boat. We'll see what Jalen Marshall does. He's visiting Oklahoma State this weekend, defensive lineman. So there's some guys from last week's group as that, this is sort of could sort of transition to decision mode after this weekend. But in terms of the guys that are visiting this weekend, I don't know if there's a guy that you would say is like a candidate to be a right away commit. I mean, I know that Nebraska is really high on Tyler Martin, the linebacker from Massachusetts. He decommitted from Michigan back in January. I'm not sure if he's got other visits lined up after this. So maybe a guy to keep an eye on there. And then actually Ashton Hayes, the running back, took an official last week, has Nebraska this week, and those seem to be the 2 main schools in contention for him. So there's some guys to watch, but I would say if you're looking for commitments on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, it's just as likely to come from last week's batch as this week's.
Hey, Baz is kind of an old guy, Parker, so he'd be interested in this Dom Raiola picture of Dominic Raiola, former All-American center at Nebraska, 2000 Remington Award winner, has a kid, Dylan Raiola, who just got an offer from Georgia. Baz, he's a quarterback.
Dominic Raiola's son is getting college offers, huh?
Yeah. How about Dominic?
He just finished.
I remember Dominic.
High school.
Yeah,
what do you remember about Dominic? What do you remember about Dominic?
I remember that he was a badass who I mean, that's probably the best way to describe it. Like he dominated at that position. Like he was so good. I think he kind of gets lost in the shuffle a little bit when you talk about great Nebraska offensive linemen. And maybe I'm wrong there, but
no, I think he does.
That goes back to the guys Nebraska had, before him in the glory days, of course. But he's as good as anybody's Nebraska's ever had. Almost, he's near the top of the list. So yeah, he was. Yeah,
when you look at the centers, Baz, like if you just look at the center position, Dave Remington was the best center to ever play for Nebraska. But after that, it's either Aaron Taylor or Dominic Raiola.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Yeah. But you don't. Everybody kind of naturally assumes maybe it's Aaron Taylor. But if you look at them, if you really look at them and talk to guys who played with Dom, they would say, the nod might go to Dominic. So anyway, Dylan Taylor.
Anyway, we've got one foot in the grave because his kid's getting scholarship offers in college.
Parker's going to be doing a story on Dylan Raiola.
Yeah, he's a 2024 prospect, so he's just like the kid from Bellevue West that Nebraska offered as a quarterback a couple weeks ago. Daniel Kalen just finished his freshman year of high school, and is gonna be a sophomore next year. And like you said, Sip, he's 6'3" and 210. He's a big kid already. He's a really, really good baseball player, and he's making the camp rounds this month. Already been offered by Georgia. And is visiting Nebraska next weekend, not this weekend, but next weekend. And so that's not only will they have guys in and working out, and maybe Dylan will throw and work out, but also then next weekend is like the Nebraska's big recruiting barbecue. So that's when they've really aimed to have a lot of guys on campus. Not only will they have a good group of official visitors, but they'll have a bunch of unofficial visitors too. I know not only are there sort of bigger names like that, but they've got a couple kids from Florida that are, offer worthy guys that'll be in town on unofficials. I think they got an outside linebacker from Texas that's coming up that weekend. Carson Hegerly, who's a kid who's sort of been on the radar screen from North Dakota, is coming down that weekend. So it's a busy weekend this weekend as we speak and as it gets going at Memorial Stadium, but next weekend is going to be a really big one.
Now, I don't know, Baz. Okay, this is a top 50 in his class baseball player too, Dylan Raiola. He's a catcher. Now, I asked Dominic today if he would play both. It didn't sound like it. I think could have. This is where, like, again, I'm just kind of getting used to college sports. Could a quarterback at Nebraska play college baseball too? I don't know if you could even do that.
It'd be tough because you'd run into some conflicts with spring ball for sure. Yeah. And you'd probably miss a lot of fall ball as well when you came back on campus. So it'd be if you're going to do it, you'd basically be playing the season, and you wouldn't be doing spring ball with the football team, or you'd miss the first month of the baseball season. Basically,
that's what Reese Mooney, the 2023 quarterback that Nebraska's offered and is after, the only one in the country they're recruiting at this point. That his plan is to play baseball, wherever he goes, and to try to do that. And then there's actually an outside linebacker from Reno, Ashton Hayes' teammate, Robbie Snelling, is a really talented baseball player and plays outside linebacker, and is supposedly going to visit Nebraska this fall. That would be, Baz, like, more than playing quarterback. Imagine that. Imagine the physical rigors of like trying to play linebacker and throwing your shoulder into guys during football season. And
Quick story. Who's the Wisconsin receivers coach, Parker? Do you know? He used to be here, Baz. I can't come up with his name right now.
He's not. Isn't he not actually there anymore? He went to Michigan State.
Oh, he's at Michigan State. That's right. Thank you.
Hang on.
Gilmore. Ted Gilmore.
Ted Gilmore. Here's the deal. Along these lines, it was really interesting. Baz will remember Kyrie Cooper was a receiver here.
Yep.
Played outfield for the baseball team.
Yep.
And we were covering spring ball as we do. And it got around to talking to Ted Gilmore. He was in the group setting, and he was asked about Kyrie Cooper. He was very blunt about the fact that he's not here, so he doesn't matter. Because he's playing baseball, and therefore I have no comment on him. It was very clear he was not happy about him playing baseball. That's why I think it's really hard. God, for a quarterback, I just don't know how you could do it.
Yeah. It's hard enough no matter what position you play, but playing quarterback and then having to try and do that. Pretty tough.
No way. I just say no way.
All right.
I know Kyler Murray didn't pull it off well at all.
Jeez.
Damn it, Parker.
God dang it, Parker.
Damn it, Parker.
Number one overall pick in football and number 9 overall pick in baseball. Yeah, it cannot work.
Did he do both in college though?
Hold on, Parker. Hold on. I think he did, Baz.
Did he? I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Yeah, I think he played baseball, and he played baseball. Now, I don't know that he cut it off though.
Let's look.
Yeah.
with the
I'm
Sooners, he
praying to
spent,
God right now that he didn't do both because Parker will really, really look bad.
He
He played in 20. He played.
2 years at Oklahoma.
There you go. 2017, 2018. Played 51 games in 2018.
Hello.
296, 10 homers, 10 stolen bases.
Yeah, I remember him playing. I mean, I'm still saying though, now he's a crazy good talent.
I was gonna say, like, not every high school quarterback / outfielder is Kyler Murray. So that's
Right. I don't know. And you'd have to look too if Oklahoma's, how that overlapped when they had spring ball, all that.
Probably they had it in the spring, so it must have overlapped.
Wow. Jeez, Parker.
But it can vary as to
It
when teams have it.
It can vary.
Yeah, it would be a you could do it. It would be a tall task, I think is the point we're trying to make.
Well, yeah, Aaron Murray's 5'8", so it's not that tall of a task.
Kyler Murray.
It's Kyler Murray first off.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm just trying to get used to football. I haven't.
Aaron Murray's 5'8", so it's not that tall of a task.
Hello.
Baseball is easier for him because his zone's not very big. That's probably the only reason he could do it. It's not because he's once in a,
28 walks, 56 strikeouts his last year of baseball at Oklahoma. So maybe it's not that easy.
Huh.
I don't even know where to go from that.
Oh, we do know
Kyler Murray for no good reason.
Parker's on call basically starting Sunday for Richard Torres, their quarterback. I'm hoping we can call him Dick Torres when he gets here. But as far as that goes,
Rich. I think the approved vernacular is Richie Rich.
Rich.
Simple, we'll call him Dick Torres. Like that'll be fine.
Yeah, visiting Kansas State. Now, Parker, is this just a matter of, is Kansas State just going to try to talk him out of Nebraska?
Yeah, probably. I mean, definitely. And Richard Torres, these are the only 2 visits on his schedule. The thing that Richard Torres undoubtedly knows is that Nebraska right now is scheduled to host AJ Bianco, who's a quarterback from Honolulu, Hawaii, on an official visit next weekend. So Torres gets his 2 official visits out of the way. He's in the driver's seat at Nebraska. He's the only quarterback that's visited officially. MJ Morris is off the board. He committed to NC State. It's the Richard Torres show right now. But that all changes if AJ Bianco gets on a plane and visits and, hits it off with the staff, a week from today. So that's sort of the situation. I mean, I don't know, like I don't know what they would tell you in terms of exactly how they compare the 2 guys, but Torres has been on campus. He's visited. Bianco hasn't. And so he's in the catbird seat right now. Richard Torres is, but the clock is ticking on that. And
there's a really interesting question, Parker. I don't know. I mean, I ask you questions sometimes that are unanswerable, but if Torres commits, does Bianco still come on his visit?
I don't know. I doubt it. Nebraska hasn't taken 2 quarterbacks in a class under Frost and Mario Verduzco, the quarterback's coach. They added Noah Vedral as a transfer in addition to taking, is that Luke McCaffrey, I think, in the what would have been the 19 class. But they've not taken 2. Well. Yeah. They both played at Nebraska.
They both played at Nebraska for a time. Yeah.
And so it's going to be, I don't think so simple. Now, time will tell. But if Torres commits, I think he's their guy. I think he's their guy, and they won't look back after that.
And so
that'd be my guess.
So Bianco's probably is Bianco just sitting back waiting to see what Torres does too?
Yes and no. I mean, I think Bianco, the last I heard was he was out on the West Coast. He was doing the camp swing out there, trying to get noticed by other schools too. I mean, think about all the challenges recruits have had over the past year plus in terms of, finding a way to play and get in front of, get tape even to coaches when with the pandemic and the dead period. Then imagine being not where you could like walk down the street and go to USC's campus or get in the car like Tyler Martin did and go somewhere like, when you're in Hawaii, like there was travel restrictions even from the continental U.S. back and forth to Hawaii. So, and they didn't have a season even in the spring. They had some like scrimmage work basically. So he's really has to make up for lost time in terms of the evaluation piece. So I think he's probably keeping busy, and then we'll see if Nebraska's got a quarterback in its class a week from now.
Before we switch over to Baz and talk some baseball, some serious baseball, Nebraska now has 3 verbals. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep.
Hausman, Victor Jones.
Correct. And Chase Androff, the tight end, committed on Monday. Yeah. So it's going to be super interesting. I mean, I think you could see more action, obviously, this month. Not only we've talked about a couple guys, Torres, Sampson, maybe, depending on what happens with Ohio State, some other guys who could decide to pull the trigger sooner rather than later. And then, then you've got a guy like Jake Applegate, who we talked about after he picked up an offer during his workout and got an offer from Minnesota the next day. But yeah, there's a lot of puzzle pieces to fit together, a lot of moving pieces. And by the way, Tyreek Johnson is listed as an enrolled student at Nebraska. Doesn't mean for sure that he ends up at playing for Nebraska, but it's a pretty good indicator that he's clearly one of how they want to fill one of their 2 spots on the transfer market for this summer, like to play in 2021. So there's just there's moving pieces on pretty much all fronts.
And he was a 5-star defensive back who likes pancakes. We know he does like pancakes.
Yeah,
we know that.
Yeah, we do.
We do. Now, Baz, I was really fascinated when I walked in the office yesterday and you started rattling off photos on your phone of Baum Stadium in Fayetteville and the impression that place made on you.
Yeah. Huge impression.
Why?
Just because I think it showed what Haymarket Park could be in a way. If Nebraska made some changes out there, you look at those 2 stadiums, and there's a lot of similarities. You can start with the fact that they're both oriented the exact same direction. They're set up a similar way. Baum has more suites. Their suites kind of go all the way down the lines as opposed to not quite that far in Haymarket. There's berms in the outfield. But, what I saw this weekend, or this last weekend, I guess, was something that Haymarket could aspire to, if we're being honest. That Arkansas had 11,084 fans there every night. That was their official attendance every night, which is a sellout. And the stands were packed. The left field berm was packed. They call it the hog pen out there. And it's basically, for those that aren't familiar with Baum, it's basically a park on left field. There's built-in grills out there. They have a separate entrance where you can bring in coolers. I watched 2 college kids walk in with a $600 Yeti cooler full of booze, each of them carrying an end of it and setting up. They come in before the games and set up their lawn chairs. And you can see where that would work at Nebraska with the way that park is set up, with the left field berm. You could see beer sales, alcohol sales there. You could see a separate entrance to get into that left field area. You'd come up with a catchy nickname pretty easily. Call it the corn crib, or call it, whatever you want to call it, something like that. So, I think what I saw there, first and foremost, is a Nebraska team that wasn't intimidated by that environment. But at the same time, it was an environment that was very intimidating, if that makes sense. It's not easy for teams to go in there and win. And I think Arkansas is 29-6 at home now this year. They've won like 82% of their games at home over the last 5-6 years. It's some ridiculous number. It's an intimidating home environment. And I think Nebraska handled it very well. But when things got tight, when Arkansas had its big inning in that 8th inning Monday night, I think that crowd played a role in it. The sound that crowd made when Chase Welch hit the home run, Charlie Welch, hit the home run for Arkansas, it's right up there with anything I've ever heard in 20 years of covering sports at the high school, college level. It was just it was a special environment. I know Nebraska fans, at least some of them, probably a vocal minority of them, are going to say, well, Arkansas is annoying. They were mean to our boys and this, that, and the other thing. But look, man, that place is special. And you see why Arkansas is so tough in that building. And you see how it could work for Nebraska with some changes. And obviously it's not as easy as saying, well, we're just going to throw a few $1 million at it and make it better. There's obviously an agreement there with the Lincoln Salt Dogs you have to work through. You'd have to get alcohol sales approved. You'd have to do some remodeling and updating and facelift and those sorts of things. But if you're going to do it, now it's time to do it. You got a really good team. You got a hot coach. You're in a league that you're poised, if things go well, to dominate really for the foreseeable future. After the way things went this year, you win that league with games to spare this year. And so, yeah, what I saw was a great atmosphere, an incredible college atmosphere. What I also saw was an opportunity for Nebraska to turn Haymarket Park into something like that and make it one of the toughest places to play in the country.
I got a question. You guys manage to do things other than work in this world, and a lot of life has basically passed me by. Why? I mean, what is a $600 Yeti cooler, and what are the benefits of a Yeti cooler?
It supposedly keeps stuff cold for a really long time. You get a neat sticker that you can put on it. That's really about it. I think.
I don't know if the benefits of a $600 Yeti cooler are best seen in the hog pen when you're probably like going to be home in a couple hours, or you're going to be not worried about the temperature of your drinks in a couple hours at the very least. But like, let's say you were going to an island in Lake Superior where there was no electricity. It would seal well enough to keep your ice frozen for couple weeks.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
So it's about the sealant. It's about the seal.
Yeah,
it's about the seal. Yeah.
They're extremely efficient. So if you want to look cool and just have a Yeti cooler, that's great. But if you're actually like going into the backcountry or going out into the, the shit, so to speak. Like
the what? I'm sorry.
The shit. What? Simple. The shit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello.
It will actually serve the purpose it's supposed to serve, which is
they're pretty sweet actually. I have a Yeti koozie. It's like a metal koozie with a screw on top, and it will keep a drink cold for like hours. Like it's insane how good it works.
Wow.
Not that you're going to have a drink in a koozie for hours at a time, but
so you're paying for technology.
You're paying for technology.
Yeah.
It's kind of like golf. You're paying for technology, basically, when you go buy that new driver.
So, all right. So Will Bolt will be. You know what? Well, I was thinking when you were going through your spiel about the stadium and what they could do at Haymarket. And by the way, Haymarket needs refurbishing.
It needs an update. It needs a facelift.
Those grounds. And I'm talking mainly about the grounds around it. But that's the sort of thing that could help keep Will here.
Yes.
I mean, there'll be an ongoing discussion, I imagine, as long as the Nebraska baseball program does what we expect it to do. There's going to be teams coming after Will quite a bit. He's already really well respected. So that I think that could help. Hey, Bass, real quick, Parker's talking about the football recruiting. Do you have a pretty good idea what they have coming in terms of their 2021 class?
You're talking baseball.
I mean, I know the name Chase Mason. I know the name Drew Christo. Those are the big ones, right?
Yeah, it's a top 40 class nationally. If you go, and it's like everything else, there's different places you can look, but I think the general consensus is it's a top 40 class nationally. It's ranked 36th by Perfect Game, which really does a good job of keeping track of that stuff. And you mentioned two of the big names, Chase Mason, the South Dakota Player of the Year, who's kind of that classic, like he's a slugger. He's a guy that when he hits the ball, it sounds different. He's one of those type of guys. Drew Christo, obviously a lot of folks in Nebraska are familiar with Monty Christo's son, the pitcher from Elkhorn, who's probably going to be an MLB draft pick here next month. So it'll be interesting to see how highly he goes, how much money he gets, if it's enough to make him say, you know what, I'm going pro, or if Nebraska's going to have a real shot to get him to Lincoln, which if they do, then they have him for 3 years. So it's going to be real interesting to watch that play out. There's a kid named CJ Hood from Norris, who's got just nasty stuff as a high school kid, can get up to mid 90s on the gun, long, lanky guy. Luke Jessen out of Elkhorn South is another guy I think you need to keep an eye on. It's a fascinating class because if you look at the quote that Will Bolt gave about it when they all signed, he said it reminded him of his recruiting class that came in back in 99, I believe it was. And
yeah, 98.
98. Yeah. We all know what that class did at Nebraska. We went to a couple College World Series and really helped turn that program around under Dave Van Horn. So that's what it reminds him of. It's a lot of local kids. You know, they went to Hawaii and got a kid, much like Nebraska did in that 98 class with Shane Comine. They went into Texas and got a kid. I believe they've got a kid coming in from Canada. You know, they kind of went all over to get guys, but the majority of those guys are coming from Nebraska, coming from the Omaha area, the Lincoln area. You know, and it's local kids that care. And now those kids have seen what happened this year with that team coming, you know, from a place where maybe nationally Nebraska didn't have the respect that it deserved. And even in the conference, not having the respect it deserved, picked outside the top 6, and they win the league by 3.5 games. So yeah, it's a fascinating recruiting class. And you look at what Nebraska's losing after this year, you know, Spencer Schwellenbach, chief among those names, potentially Cade Povich, depending on what happens with his draft status. You know, a guy like Jackson Hallmark, who is a senior this year, he's one of those guys that can decide to come back and take advantage of the extra year if he wants to. But there's some guys, you're going to lose some guys. You know, Luke Roscom, you're going to lose. That's leadership. Mojo Haggie's a guy that's not coming back. There's going to be some Acker, you know, guys that played really key roles on this team. And you're losing a lot of leadership. But I don't know that you'll necessarily see a huge drop in the talent level. The experience level certainly is going to be different next year. But just from a talent standpoint, with what's coming back, you know, there was a lot of freshmen on this team that we didn't even see play this year because of Nebraska's depth, because they didn't play midweek games, those sorts of things. We hear all about Max Anderson, Bryce Matthews. They had a bunch of classmates that were pretty good too. And now you're going to add this really talented class to it with a guy like Drew Christo, who, if he ends up here, might be starting on the weekends for Nebraska as a freshman, you know, and CJ Hood, who might be coming out of the bullpen as a freshman, Chase Mason, who could be batting in the middle of that lineup as a freshman. You know, there's guys in this class, they're going to have the chance to come in and play right away. So it's going to look different next year, certainly, from the guys that are on the field, maybe stylistically a little bit, but the talent level, there's probably going to be a little bit of a drop, but not a whole lot, just from a pure talent standpoint.
Yeah, Chase Mason, that's another guy I'd watch in the draft.
Yeah, somebody to keep an eye on, certainly.
Yeah, he could go high enough. I know Will's a little concerned about that. That's something to watch. When is the draft, by the way?
It's in July, mid-July. It's the same weekend as the All-Star game.
Okay.
July 11th, 12th. It's only 20 rounds this year. So you're not going to see as many guys picked as you would in a normal year, going back to 2019. But yeah, Chase Mason's fascinating because he's had FBS football offers too as a quarterback. We're talking about guys who play football and baseball. Wyoming offered him as a quarterback. Some really good
Fresno
FCS.
State did. Yeah,
Fresno State.
Yeah,
some good FCS programs offered him as a quarterback. So, and he's kind of similar to the guy Nebraska was after in football recruiting from Kansas, or is after, I guess. Darren Kanak, yeah. And that he's a freak athlete, runs track, you know, he's back running the 400 meters this year after an ACL tear during football season. You know, he's one of those kids that's a freak athlete. And like I said, he's one of those guys where he went to a showcase last summer, a baseball showcase, and was absolutely hitting the cover off the ball and kind of making some scouts go, whoa, look at this dude, you know, 6'4", 215 already. You know, he's a grown man already. So yeah, that's a guy that if Nebraska gets him here, look out. And it's kind of the same with Drew Christo and a lot of those guys too. There's some potential if they're able to keep the majority of this class together and keep them from, and if they don't get drafted too high, ending up in Lincoln, you're going to have something there.
It's interesting too, because we were talking about this the other day, Baz, the guys who you just started to see in terms of like pitching, you know, like Kyle Perry, I thought, you know, on Monday was really good. You know, I mean, you could tell, and that's just getting back to it after Tommy John. So a full off season and all that. I mean, that's going to serve him well. And they've got other guys too in that boat where it's not just the incoming group and then the guys who played a big role this year that returned, but you've got a couple guys like that who take the next step in their recovery, and you think you might have a lot of production there too.
Yeah, we forget Colby Gomez didn't pitch this year, and that's one of the best arms on that team. You're talking mid-90s stuff. Was great as a freshman in 2019, and I couldn't help but think of him Monday night. When Nebraska needed to win that game and needed about one more arm out of the bullpen. Now, if they could have brought in Colby Gomez, maybe that game turns out a little differently. Who knows? Arkansas is really good, but yeah, they're going to have some guys back. Jake Munns, Kyle Perry, like you said, Cody Frank, Cam Wynn, potentially Cade Povich. Like I said, you'll lose Chance Roach. You'll lose a couple other guys, Max Schreiber. But by and large, you're going to return a lot of high leverage arms next year to add in with those freshmen. So pitching wise, you probably feel pretty good. You're going to be really good up the middle on defense. You're going to return your catcher in Griffin Everett. You're going to return Bryce Matthews, your second baseman, who had an outstanding year as a freshman and has the talent that it's tangible. You can see it with him.
Oh yeah. Who's the shortstop? Who's going to play shortstop?
See, that's the question. Do you move Bryce Matthews over there? Because he played third base at the regional and looked pretty good over there too. So he's a guy you can move around, and you can put him at short. You can put Cam Chick at second base. Cam Chick will be back next year.
Oh yeah, Chick is a bat too.
Yeah, he's a bat, and he made probably Nebraska's two best defensive plays this year. One in the outfield at Michigan State, and one in the infield against Arkansas when he dove and stabbed a hot shot up the middle. So you're going to be good up the middle on defense, which you always have to be in baseball. It's kind of one of the old axioms. There's some spots where you need to replace guys. Roscom at first base is going to need replacing. Who knows who else? Potentially Hallmark in the outfield. Mojo Hagee in the outfield, who had a great glove out there. There's Joe Acker in the outfield as well. Your whole outfield's going to look new next year. But again, there's guys that sat there this year and couldn't play because there was no midweek games and no non-conference games. That'll be ready to step into those roles. So it's going to be really interesting, I think, come fall ball to see what it looks like, to see what they roll out there. And then, of course, when the season gets here in February, early March, they've got a chance, I think, to back this season up with another good season. So it's going to be interesting to watch. Yeah.
I think people are sort of excited already.
They should be. Well, and like I said, Nebraska's poised to, and I hate to use this word because it carries weight, but they're poised to dominate the Big Ten. Kind of like people thought they might when they first came into the league, from the Big 12. You thought, baseball, Nebraska's going to walk all over that league.
I think Eric Bakich would have something to say about that.
He would, yeah. And so would the Indiana Hoosiers, so did the Iowa Hawkeyes. It's not like it's going to be a walkover or anything like that, but Nebraska's in the conversation. And, Darren Erstad did a good job, but it wasn't every year where you said, oh yeah, Nebraska's going to be in the mix this year to win this league. And it feels different under Will Bolt. I think, and he used the word, and I'll continue to repeat it. It's tangible. You can see it with these guys, and there's momentum there. And doing what they did this last weekend, even though you lose, it shows you, what you had this year outside of your conference. We found out they were pretty good in their conference. We also found out they're pretty good on a national scale too. So yeah, it won't be easy. I think the Big Ten just continues to get better in baseball every year. This year's regional showing aside, outside of Nebraska, of course, but it's not going to be easy. But Nebraska's going to be in the mix to win that Big Ten title every year. And there's going to be years where it's like this, or where they might dominate it and win it with a week.
Well, now hold on. Now there's one other tangible thing to address. Numbers. Eric Bakich is making $806,000 annually, with a maximum bonus of $120,000. Will Bolt's making $300,000, with a maximum.
You will be making more than that next year. I would be willing to.
A maximum bonus of $120,000. That gap's going to close, right?
Would close significantly, I would think.
I don't know what Bill Moose.
Yeah, I don't think Will Bolt's getting a $500,000 raise in the offseason or anything like that, but he's going to be making more than $300,000 next year. I
wonder if he'll become the second highest paid. Now the gap after Bakich is huge. After Bakich, I'll have you guess this. Who's the second highest paid baseball coach in the Big Ten?
Oh boy, I would probably say Tracy Smith at Indiana if I had to guess.
Well, now wait a second. He went to Arizona State.
Or not, sorry, yeah, that's the old Indiana coach.
Yeah.
The Indiana coach. I'll say the Indiana.
He's getting paid now.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
the
no, he got
second
fired,
highest-
so he ain't getting paid anymore.
Yeah, the second highest paid coach is Rick Heller.
Oh, in Iowa.
The gap. Yeah, at Iowa. The gap is really large. He's making 376.
So
it's a big gap. I don't know if you'd make Will Bolt the second highest paid coach. You might.
Isn't Bakich like he's at like 400 base, right? And then he's got some other guarantees that get him to like something.
No, there was a website that listed all the 220 salaries, and I thought that it seemed like that was his base. Now remember, they got within a game of winning it all in 2019.
Yeah.
So yeah, he made a legitimate 800,000 with bonus potential, and that's what you'd have to pay a coach who makes it to the CWS final. I almost think you have to pay him that at that point.
Yeah.
Well, that's the.
And if you want to keep him
SEC.
around in the Big Ten, you better pay him that much, or he'll go somewhere south where he can get paid. And
the LSU coach was making well north of $1 million.
Oh yeah.
And there's a few others in the SEC that make $1 million or more.
Yeah, it's a different game in the SEC. We all know that, but
they care about that.
Well, I mean,
it just means more.
It just means more. Is all I'm trying to say. Simple. No, I would love to be a fly on the wall at that meeting when Will Bolt walks into Bill Moose's office, next week or whenever they have that meeting, and just to be in there and listen to what Will Bolt might ask for, when it comes to potential improvements at Haymarket Park, what they talk about for salary, things like that, because Will Bolt's in a position of power right now, and he's got that cachet, I think, to maybe ask for some things, whether that's a renovated locker room or whatever it may be. So
assistant salaries,
assistant salary pool, recruiting budget, things like that. There's a lot of stuff to be sorted out there. So it'll be interesting a couple months from now when that's all kind of sorted out, what it looks like.
It's interesting because there's no doubt you could watch it. It's a great word that Will Bolt used, tangible. It is amazing though, when you think about it's 1 year, right? It's a great year. They won the Big Ten. It was a weird year. League only schedule. You go to a regional and push Arkansas and all that. And now we're talking about, man, he's in a position of power. They can do all these things. It's just a little bit of a preview, I guess, of what this fan base is going to do and the way people are going to react if, Scott Frost or Fred Hoiberg in particular get their programs going. I mean, it's amazing how quickly we got to this point where it's treated as a sure thing. This is definitely going to work. And it's obviously on the right track, but it's remarkable to me that what the fervor is going to be like if one of those other programs.
Well, college athletics is mainly about emotion, and this is large. Yeah. I mean, you get a lot of emotional responses.
Yeah.
And I think the fan base, there is an emotional response. Nebraska men's athletics has had so few examples of success that fans just wrap their arms around this, and they don't want to let go of it. I don't think Will Bolt thinks of it that way, but yeah, he can capitalize on that.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. So that's what I'm trying to say when I say he's in a position of power. He's got the fan base. He's got the fan base behind him.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, no, and I'm not disagreeing with you, Baz, not at all. I mean, it's just amazing how quickly you can ascend to that position.
Doesn't take long around here, does it?
Nope, it doesn't.
No, and it's look, if Fred gets it going this winter with that's a whole other topic, but with what Fred's got coming in and got coming back and the type of recruits they've had on campus already this June, they get that thing going with full crowds again in a premier conference, then look out. And then all of a sudden, you're dragging the men's athletics in this department, kind of back into the spotlight. And so, there's opportunities there, and baseball kind of showed the way, I think, a little bit with that. If you get the right combination of coaching, the right combination of attitude, and a few breaks, you see what can happen, and it can happen pretty easily. So, Yeah, it's an interesting time, certainly for baseball and for the athletic department as a whole.
Now all we got to do is get through football season and basketball season. We'll be back to baseball.
Yeah, we're just right there. I'm sure it'll just fly by.
Yeah.
We're only,
Yeah.
we're only 8
I know.
months away
I
from
caught you there, Parker. I caught that little bit of sarcasm. Come on.
I love it. I love baseball. So won't catch me.
Yeah, I'm a
complaining
big
about
fan of Kyler Murray too, and Aaron Murray, and Aaron Murray, and
all the
Tyler
Murrays. All the
Murray. All
Murrays.
the Murrays. I think I called him Kyler
Murray?
and Tyler. Yeah, Bill Murray. I'm a fan of Bill Murray. Who
If there's a
else?
How about
Murray
that?
out there,
Ann Murray. I'm a fan of Ann Murray.
Ann Murray. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we can all agree we're fans of Ann Murray.
Yes.
On that note, we should probably wrap this up.
Yeah, Eddie Murray. No, I'm a
Eddie
fan
Murray.
of.
No, that'd
Yeah.
be Eddie Murray or Eddie Murphy. How about both?
No, who was a former Baltimore Orioles?
That would be
slugger.
Eddie Murray. Yeah, that would be Eddie Murray.
I'm a fan of Eddie Murray. He could hit it. He could hit
hit
a
it.
long way. He could hit a long way.
I can hit it.
Any
a
other
long way.
Murrays?
You
Any
see me
other
swing that. I got power. I got gap to gap power.
Do you?
No, I'm a slap hitter.
it's like just like Chase Mason, right? And Eddie Murray. It's like when they hit it, it stays hit.
Yeah, exactly. When Chase Mason hits it, it stays hit.
When he hits it, it stays hit.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it.
All right, we went pretty long there.
That was long-winded. Thank you guys for thank the 12 of you that stuck all the way through to the end of this for hanging with us. We'll pick it up again next week. We'll probably have some more updates we have the Big Red Blitz next week. So we'll have a full
We'll be
report.
coming off the edge. We'll be
We'll be
coming
coming
off
off the edge. Yeah, we'll be pulling
Yeah.
each other back off the edge after doing the Big Red Blitz. So, all right, guys, until then, we'll talk to you soon.